You can't make up history. Well, maybe you can, but you shouldn't. Welcome to my channel. Today, we are going to learn the history of the United States in 10 minutes. And by the end of this video, you will know every fact that any 6th grader should know about the history of the United States. So let's get started. Okay, before we start this video, let me explain how we're going to do this. Basically, U.S. history is split into 8 different time periods. And if we spend 2 minutes on each time period, then we will be able to cover all of U.S. history from 1492 to the present day in only 10 minutes. So let's begin. Period number 1, 1492–1607, the Age of Exploration and Early European Settlements. In 1492, Christopher Columbus set sail across the Atlantic Ocean in search of a new route to Asia. Although he never actually reached the mainland of the United States, his voyage marked the beginning of European exploration and colonization in the Americas. A few years later, other explorers like John Cabot and Amerigo Vespucci explored and claimed parts of North America for their respective countries, namely Spain and Italy. Then in 1524, French explorer Jacques Cartier explored the St. Lawrence River and laid claim to Canada for France. And then, after several failed attempts in 1607, the English established their first permanent settlement in North America at Jamestown, Virginia. This marked the beginning of the colonial period in U.S. history. Period number 2, 1607 to 1763, British colonial rule. Over the next 150 years, 13 different colonies were established along the Atlantic coast, each with its own unique social, economic, and political characteristics. The southern colonies developed a plantation economy based on cash crops like tobacco, rice, and indigo, which relied heavily on enslaved labor. Meanwhile, the middle colonies became known as the breadbasket colonies due to their production of wheat, barley, and other grains. The northern colonies, on the other hand, focused on shipbuilding, fishing, and small-scale farming. Despite these differences, all the colonies shared a common identity as British subjects and were bound together by a system of local self-government under royal charters or land grants from the king. This system of government allowed the colonies to develop a sense of independence and self-reliance, which would later play a key role in the American Revolution. But things weren't always smooth between the colonies and the mother country. There were frequent conflicts with Native Americans over land and resources, as well as growing tensions with the French over control of the Ohio Valley. These conflicts culminated in the French and Indian War, which resulted in the British victory and the expulsion of the French from North America. However, the war also left the British Empire deeply in debt, which led to new taxes and regulations on the American colonies. This growing tension would eventually lead to the American Revolution. Period 3, 1763 to 1800, the American Revolution and the New Republic. Following the French and Indian War, the British government attempted to tighten its control over the American colonies and raise revenue by imposing new taxes and regulations. This included the Sugar Act of 1764, the Stamp Act of 1765, and the Townshend Acts of 1767. The colonists resisted these measures through protests, boycotts, and acts of defiance, such as the Boston Tea Party. As tensions escalated, the British government responded with even more restrictive measures, including the Intolerable Acts, which aimed to punish the city of Boston for the Tea Party. This growing conflict eventually erupted into open war in 1776, when the Continental Congress declared independence. The American Revolutionary War was fought between the United States and Great Britain from 1775 to 1783. It was a long and bloody conflict that resulted in the deaths of thousands of Americans and British soldiers, but ultimately the Americans won with the help of their allies, France and Spain. The war ended with the Treaty of Paris in 1783, which recognized the United States as a free and independent nation. In the aftermath of the war, the United States faced the challenge of creating a new government and establishing a stable republic. The framers of the Constitution sought to create a government that was both strong enough to protect the nation's interests and also responsive to the needs of the people. They also had to address issues such as slavery, representation, and the balance of power between the states and the federal government. After much debate and compromise, they drafted the United States Constitution in 1787, which established a federal republic with a system of checks and balances among the three branches of government. This new government proved to be stable and effective, setting the stage for the nation's growth and prosperity in the 19th century. Period number 4, 1800 to 1848, the rise of national identity and westward expansion. During this period, the United States experienced significant territorial expansion with the acquisition of the Louisiana Purchase in 1803 and the Oregon Territory in 1846. This westward movement was driven by a variety of factors, including the desire for new land and resources, as well as the belief in the concept of manifest destiny, which held that the United States was destined to expand across the North American continent. The United States also began to develop a distinct national identity during this period, partly due to the writings of early American intellectuals such as Thomas Jefferson and James Madison. They emphasized the importance of democracy, individual liberty, and the rule of law. Additionally, the Monroe Doctrine of 1823 established the United States as a major player on the world stage by asserting its dominance in the Western Hemisphere. However, this period was not without its challenges. The issue of slavery continued to be a source of tension and debate, leading to a series of compromises designed to maintain the balance between slave and free states. Moreover, the Mexican-American War of 1846 to 1848 resulted in the acquisition of vast territories in the Southwest, raising new questions about slavery and the future of the nation. Period number 5, 1848 to 1877, the Civil War and Reconstruction. The issue of slavery eventually came to a head with the outbreak of the Civil War in 1861. The war was fought between the Union, consisting of the United States and their allies, and the Confederacy, which was made up of the southern states that seceded from the United States. The war resulted in the deaths of hundreds of thousands of soldiers and the preservation of the Union. Following the Civil War, the United States entered a period of Reconstruction, which aimed to restore order and stability to the South and integrate formerly enslaved people into society. This period saw the passage of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, which abolished slavery, granted citizenship and voting rights to African Americans respectively. However, despite these reforms, racial tensions and discrimination persisted in the South, leading to the rise of Jim Crow laws and the disenfranchisement of African Americans. Period number 6, 1877 to 1914, industrialization, urbanization, and immigration. The late 19th and early 20th centuries witnessed rapid industrialization and urbanization in the United States. This period saw the rise of big business and the growth of major cities, as well as the increasing power of labor unions. The United States also became a destination for immigrants from around the world, particularly from Asia and Europe. This influx of immigrants contributed to the growth of cities and the diversification of American culture. However, this period was also marked by significant social and economic problems, including poverty, inequality, and political corruption. Reform movements emerged to address these issues, such as the Progressive Movement, which aimed to improve working conditions and protect consumers. Period number 7, 1914 to 1945, World Wars and the Great Depression. The United States emerged as a major world power following its victory in World War I. However, in the 1920s, the nation experienced a period of economic prosperity followed by the Great Depression of the 1930s. This severe economic downturn had a devastating impact on the American way of life and led to widespread unemployment and poverty. In response, President Franklin D. Roosevelt implemented the New Deal, a series of government programs and reforms aimed at providing relief, recovery, and reform. World War II began in 1939, and the United States initially adopted a policy of neutrality. However, following the attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941, the United States joined the war and became a key player in the Allied victory. This global conflict had a profound impact on the American home front, leading to the mobilization of the economy and the entry of women into the workforce. Period number 8, 1945 to the present, the Cold War and beyond. Following World War II, the United States entered into a period of intense rivalry with the Soviet Union known as the Cold War, and this period was characterized by a nuclear arms race, proxy conflicts, and a struggle for global supremacy. The Cold War also saw the emergence of new technologies and the globalization of the economy. During the 1950s and 1960s, the United States experienced a period of economic prosperity and cultural change. This era was marked by the growth of the suburbs, the rise of consumer culture, and the emergence of new social movements. The civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s aimed to end racial segregation and discrimination in the South. Led by figures such as Martin Luther King Jr., the movement achieved significant progress through nonviolent protests and legal challenges. Another important event in recent U.S. history is the Watergate scandal of the 1970s. This political crisis led to the resignation of President Richard Nixon and highlighted the importance of the free press in holding those in power accountable. The United States has continued to face a range of challenges and opportunities in the late 20th and early 21st centuries, from the end of the Cold War to the rise of new global powers. Nevertheless, the nation has remained a global leader in terms of economy, culture, and military power. So there you have it. That is the history of the United States in only 10 minutes. If you want more videos like this, then please stay tuned because this is only the beginning.